Liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Council, is there any considerations, any changes to the agenda?
Just maybe you could explain what we're gonna do with this housing needs analysis.
You want to address that, or you want me to?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. I can go ahead and address that. I know that we've had, I guess to say the least, some excitement over the weekend. I know the housing needs analysis is a pretty intense document, and without electricity for a good share of Friday and cleanup on Saturday, not everybody's had the opportunity. And now we're having Civic Plus issues. Not everybody's had the opportunity to read through the document. So we do have Mr. Mullins here tonight to give the presentation over the housing needs assessment, but we'll listen to him, and then any acknowledgement or we can still make questions, concerns, comments. We can do all of that this evening, but we'll move the acknowledgement of the report to the next council meeting, which would be May 5th.
Thank you.
Any other concerns with the agenda or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the stipulations that Ms. Navratil stated.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martinez,
Second.
second by Councilperson McKeon. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The agenda is then set. Do we have any disclosures to any city council members for any items on the agenda? Hearing none, then we'll move to hear the public. Do we have anyone here who would like to address the council on a non-agenda item? If so, please step up to the podium and identify yourself. Okay, hearing none, you're gonna get to listen to me here for a few minutes. So, needless to say, we've had a few challenging days over this last weekend, and I just want to take this moment to thank all the people that we had involved over the weekend. We had starting Thursday evening, we had all the city staff going home thinking they were going to have a nice 3-day weekend for Easter. And then Friday morning came, and then we had, when the storms came through, the city staff, most of them started getting woke up at probably 1:30, started to get calls in, or 1 o'clock. The staff were starting to be called into City Hall. So the staff started coming to life at 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock Friday morning, and really without a little bit of rest, probably Friday night, they worked pretty hard all the way through till Saturday evening, and then fortunately got yesterday off for Easter, and then back at it again today. And I just can't thank enough for the city staff for their dedication to our community. It isn't every day that you're going to have people that come in when they're supposed to be having days off, supposed to be enjoying, probably ruining some plans for the weekends, but diligently coming in and working all weekend long for the community. Starting, like I said, 2 o'clock in the morning, coming in pitch black because there's no power, not able to see, driving around, not able to see if there's logs across or trees across the road as you were coming in, or if there's down power lines as you were coming in, and then taking the time to remove those from the roads for later in the day, so our citizens could have clear pathways to drive within the community. We had kudos to our firemen who came in to do assessments, and our city staff that went around early in the morning to do damage assessments. We had fire departments from let's see, I don't want to miss any. Alta, Newell, Marathon, Sioux Rapids, Rembrandt, and I believe Cherokee also all came in before dawn to help our crews do damage assessment in the community. So just kudos to our surrounding neighbors for the help that they gave to our community. Also, just like I said, just a big thank you to our staff and our leadership, led by Ms. Navratil, and all the department heads, chief of police, the chief of fire, and their staffs for the dedication and the work that they did, and the leadership that they provided. I was at the fire station most of Friday and just observing and doing public relations stuff with TV stations, but I guess some of my definition of leadership is in a state of chaos like it was, and during that day you couldn't tell that there was chaos going on. So in my mind, that showed the type of leadership that we had, with chaos going around all around us, that it was running very smoothly. Everybody knew exactly what they were supposed to be doing, and they were getting their jobs done. So appreciate everything. It's just really proud to be the mayor of Storm Lake in situations like that. And then we moved on with all the volunteers that we had in the community coming Saturday, all the work that was done. If you drive into town today, if you drove in Friday and you drive in today, you wouldn't, it's a huge difference in the way the community looks between now, or between last Friday and today. And that's just all the hard work from all the dedicated volunteers. And I would name some of the volunteers, but I don't want to miss anybody, because there was just a large amount, and appreciate everything that they had done. I also want to do a special thanks to the Spencer Fire Department. They came in at, what was it, Chief, probably about 2 o'clock to relieve our firefighters who had been there since 1 o'clock in the morning. And they no sooner got here, and they had, Chief was giving them a orientation, and they were talking, looking at the wall, talking about this is where the fire alarms go off, and no sooner were they looking at that than the fire alarm went off. So they no sooner got here, and then they were called out on a call. So our thanks go to the Spencer Police, or the Spencer Fire Department, for sending some firefighters down to help with the 2 to 8 shift or whatever that was Friday, so that our firefighters had an opportunity to get some rest. And we got all sorts of thank yous here. We have, we couldn't have gone through the disaster without Buena Vista County Emergency Management and Director Amy Barrett, who virtually lived at the fire station for both Friday and Saturday, helping get the assessments put together and sending into the state to get, so that we could be declared a state disaster area, and all that comes with that for our citizens. And also a huge thanks goes to Go Serve Global. I mean, those of us that were working around the fire station Friday and Saturday know how much effort Go Serve Global does. I don't know how many people know about them, but they're from out of Albert City, and they go around the nation with disasters. And they have equipment, and they have volunteers, and they do the job in the community. And they did just a tremendous job helping out Friday, particularly getting the roadways cleared away so we could get traffic through the roadways. And then they moved on into Saturday, helping our citizens with the disasters in their own yards, helping them clear up the trees and stuff in their own yards. They are still here, still using volunteers, and they plan on being here, Kim, all week. So you can get, if you know of people in the community that need some help, they can just go to they're going to be at the fire station the entire time. They can go to the fire station and just ask for what you need to have done in your yard or wherever, and they can find the volunteers to help you do that. You can also go with stormdamage@stormlake.org and email that address with pictures of your damage and stuff, and they can also use that to tie you up with some volunteers to get your projects done. So they've been going nonstop for the last couple days. You'll see their trucks. I mean, they have big trucks that they have in the community hauling trees and stuff. So big shout out to them, and to I don't see Barb here, but to Barb Meister, who heads up that organization here in Storm Lake. Next one is Mid-American Energy. If it wasn't for Mid-American Energy with all the people that they brought into town to bring the power back, we would have been in a lot worse shape than we were. We got our power back a lot quicker than I think anybody realized or thought we were going to. When I went to Mid-American around 11 or 11:30 on Friday, and got out there, and there was every single power pole from Mid-American at the Field of Dreams all the way out to the blacktop was down. And I don't know, there's 15 of them probably. And they had a lot of crews coming in from a lot of different places to get power to this community, and they need to be. If you see anybody from Mid-American, thank them, because they worked really, really hard. Also from the county, we had BV Conservation. They were here right away early Friday morning with some people to help with some volunteer work and getting roadways and stuff cleared. We also had a Red Cross team in town here that was working. They were bringing tarps in for businesses that had lost roofs or had holes and windows broken and stuff like that to help businesses get those covered. The schools, we contacted Superintendent Stacy Cole early Friday morning to see if they would open up the high school for any folks that might need shelter. Fortunately, we didn't have anybody with enough damage that they needed shelter, so I don't think that was utilized, but we were very fortunate that we had that opportunity was here, and I think Power Solutions came to provide the generator and stuff to use in the auxiliary gym at the high school. So law enforcement officers from both the county and the state were here. We had help from many businesses: Storm Lake Towing, Shaler Telephone Company, Heartland Tire, Rebnord Technologies, CenturyLink, Long Lines, and just many more businesses came and provided people and just did different things in the community that we needed. And then, of course, we all needed food. So we had several people provide food for the workers and the volunteers. We had Kings Point, the Storm Lake Bakery, Power Solutions, Scooters, Casey's, Representative Jones provided some food. Casey's in Sioux Rapids even brought some food down. And on Friday, over the noon hour, we had the BV County pork producers and Cherokee Locker provided grilled pork burgers out at Mid-American for the workers. So all in all, it was quite the gathering of the community together, and it just makes you real proud to be. It makes me proud to be mayor of Storm Lake, and I think we just have quite a community that pulls together in problems like that. And no matter who you are, it was everybody. I mean, it was different groups, different ages, different diverse population. Just everybody was involved, and it was just really great to see. Unfortunately, it took something like that to occur, but just a couple other things going forward as we move forward. If citizens, if you still have branches and twigs and stuff in your yard, we would ask if you have the means to take those out yourself, out to the recycling center. But if you do not, our city, just bring them to the curb, to the parking, to the curb, and our city staff at some point will be around to pick those up and move them away for you. It may not, it may take a week or so to get that taken care of, but it will happen. So just if you have stuff and can't move it yourself, take it out to the curb and it will get taken care of eventually. Like I had mentioned, Go Serve is still functioning in the community through this week. So if you want to volunteer, that's a good place to go to talk to them at the fire station to volunteer, and also if you need some volunteers to help with projects on your property. And we still have the 3 spots in the community for people to take shingles, siding, or whatever damage that you might have. You can take that to the dumpsters at the Discovery Center, the fire station, and the Field of Dreams. Those 3 spots. If you have any of that kind of damage that you need to discard. So I just really want to thank everybody and the leadership that we have in our city staffs and in all our departments. You really stepped up, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, anybody got anything to add or anything?
Nope, I just want to say thank you to all the staff that showed up. I mean, I can't tell you what an amazing team, council you have, dedicated. I mean, we had people, and I'm not going to get into the individual stories, but it's amazing. So I want to say thank you to all of our staff, and I know that doesn't cover anything, but great job, and thank you.
Yeah, had some staff that sacrificed quite a bit that,
Yeah.
over the weekend to,
Over a holiday.
yeah, to do
On top
that.
of it.
And volunteers too, so. Okay, enough said with that. We will move on to the actual business here. First item then is the comprehensive housing needs assessment. And Ms. Navajo.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. Mr. Dutfield, you can come up to the podium as well. Honorable Mayor and Council, I know that we're still working on, I think our Civic Plus is working now. Is that correct, City Clerk Martinez?
I believe so.
Okay.
It's been on for
I-
a little while.
I've had mine on for a little bit, so I think we should be good to go. So all of the attachments you should be able to open. But we have Mr. Dutfield here. He will go ahead and do introductions to Mr. Mullins, who will give the overview of the comprehensive housing needs analysis.
I'll go ahead and just get right to it and introduce Matt Mullins. He's the Vice President of Maxfield Research and Consulting. And it's been a pleasure working with him and his organization, and he is going to come up now and present his findings to you. Mr. Mullins.
Well, thank you, Lee, and good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. Big thing to follow up on. I see some videos on social media over the weekend. Wasn't sure what I'd see when I came to town because the videos I've seen were quite drastic. And wow, I mean, when I came into town today, like you said, Mr. Mayor, you could barely tell that the damage that occurred. So it was a lot different from the videos I've seen over Friday and Saturday. So, all right, so today we're here to talk about housing. I was here back in 2017, so a few years back now, and we did this housing study back then, and we're going to talk about some of the new findings, where we're at today, and where the gaps are. I understand you haven't seen it all, so we'll kind of hit the high points and kind of dive into some Q&A here. So just kind of recap, kicked this off in late summer, did a lot of work over the fall months, early 25. So we talk about data, as kind of that late fall, early winter type time frame, which can, it can be a little slower sometimes in the real estate market at that time of year. So keep that in mind. Here we are today talking about the findings. But kind of kick things off here, we're going to talk about demographics first. The demographics drive housing need, right? Whether it's population growth, changes in tenure, family size, employment, all those things really drive housing need. So consistent with what we did in 2017, we kept our trade area the same. We call this kind of the market area or the trade area. So where the majority of, people you could pull from who may want to relocate to Storm Lake. Being that you are the economic, stronghouse of the county and of kind of the region, it's a pretty, decent sized geographic area. What do we have? 24 total geographies across there. And it encompasses 2 counties. So I talk about the trade area, I'm talking about this geographic area, right? Then we'll talk about specific needs for Storm Lake proper. So kind of looking at, set it up. Good news is we've had some really strong and steady population growth this last decade, which is countered what we're seeing across a lot of other rural cities and counties across the state, right? So we've got some positive growth happening, which is fantastic. And going forward, this decade, we're even showing a little higher growth rate. So that's fantastic. I mean, it's a higher growth rate, i.e., you have higher housing needs, right, because of faster growth rates. But as we look at where the changes are occurring, it's really fascinating. I mean, the far right chart right there, certainly seniors and the baby boomers are driving a lot of the change, as percent change. However, we have growth really through almost every single demographic cohort, from young kids, the millennials, even Gen Xer, it's pretty consistent growth across every demographic. Again, that's a good thing, because a lot of cities we work in, we see a lot of negatives. We see growth in the senior population and negatives everywhere else. So that's a very positive chart there, showing that you have pretty, strong growth trends across a lot of different demographics. All right, as we look at the household growth and homeownership rate trends, not surprisingly, they tend to peak in that 45, 54, 55 and older cohort, and as you age, the homeownership rate goes up. But there is a discrepancy between Storm Lake proper and the rural areas. Not surprisingly, the rural areas have a higher homeownership rate, i.e. they have no rental housing, right? All the rental housing is at Storm Lake proper, hence your homeownership rate is lower, while those rural townships have a higher homeownership rate. Not surprising there at all. Let's look at your 10-year rate. So 10-year means homeownership rates, right? Rent versus own. It's kind of interesting to see how even a two-person house, this thing will work up here? No, it's not going to go on there, is it?
You have to
You
You-
go back up its screen, it went up. It was on the wall.
You have to point
It was
it.
a wall, but not on there.
Oh, not on there, okay.
All right. So
The
as
clicker's
we look
not
at,
working. He has to point it here.
your household sizes,
The pointer doesn't work.
the larger the household size, you're more apt to own a home. But even that two-person household, so two-person households, empty nesters and never nesters, right? Still a fair amount of, owners right there, right? 2/3 are homeowners. But really, the single persons are really driving a lot of your rental need. So single living alone is where a lot of your rental housing needs kind of fall as we look at kind of your demographic trends. All right. That's here. There we go.
So so you're saying a family of 5, there's only 4% of those people are living in rentals?
That's
Or-
according to the Census Bureau. Now,
Okay.
I'll say this, I'll caveat this. The census has not been as accurate since the 2020 debacle after COVID hit, right? And there's a margin of error in there. That, according to their data, that's what they're coming out with. Now,
That makes sense.
how accurate is that? I jumped across on here. So looking at kind of break it down to homeowner and renters. I think this is fascinating. So typically in most cities we work in, a renter will earn, I'd say, 50 to 60% less than a homeowner. Does that make sense? So hypothetically, if a homeowner earned 100 grand, your renters would be 40 to 50,000. The renter incomes were actually higher than I thought we'd see. 48K, which means renters by choice potentially, lifestyle renters, whereas your owners had a $73,000 income, which is substantially higher. But in a lot of communities I work in, I'd say their renter income, 30, 35,000. So I was surprised to see it's a little bit higher than some other communities we have worked in of late. And as we look at the incomes, kind of what we talked about earlier about homeownership rates, because you have lower homeownership rate here, the incomes are a little bit lower in town, right? Whereas your townships have a little higher incomes. Again, because the homeownership acreage, right? You're on, ag land or whatnot, lake property, tend to have higher incomes. We'll just talk about the employment market quick. I think the big takeaway is your inflow, right? You major commuter shed coming to town every day to work, which are spending dollars, retail dollars, goods and services, childcare, healthcare, whatever that is. Big influx of people coming to town every day to work, which means opportunities, right? Opportunities to capitalize on those commuters to relocate right to town. All right, now we're gonna kind of kick it over, talk more of how the details of the housing market. So it kind of set the stage, want to set, how has the historic building been, right? So your single family market, i.e. four-step market, has been pretty stale. Not a whole lot happening, and we'll talk about that. But most of your construction has been occurring in the multifamily sector, i.e. affordable tax credit rentals, your other rentals that were townhome style, hence that duplex townhome is actually a rental. But as we look at where the new construction has been, it's really been multifamily housing. So we're quantifying anything as, say, a duplex, a townhome, twin home, as a multifamily structure. So multi has certainly led all the construction boom of late over the past, say, decade or so. Where a single family has been pretty stale, and a lot of that's due to lack of land for the lot supply. And we'll talk about that. That's a big area we need to work on here. So as we look at the rental market first, I'm a tight market, super tight rental market, sub 2% vacancy rates, i.e. someone moves to town, realtor said, not surprised that people want to rent before they buy, right? And there's nowhere to rent right now. I mean, the market's so tight, it's razor thin. No vacancies in subsidized housing, meaning like 30% of area median income. Affordable, meaning a workforce housing tax credit project. You have some newer product there, a little bit 3%, but your market rate stock, your sub 2% vacancy rate and market rate, i.e. that means build, right? You gotta have a higher, you need to have supply to meet the rental needs. But as we kind of look at the summary there between the rents and the bottom, it's kind of fascinating to see that the tax credit affordable deals have been more townhome style, hence they're larger units, whereas the market rate product is older and it's smaller unit sizes. So as we look at the rent, even though the market rate product has a lower rent, believe it or not, than the affordable, it has a much higher rent per square foot. That's rent divided by the size of that unit. To take it a step further, the term we use in the business called naturally occurring affordable housing, i.e. market rate housing that's due to its age, it could be functionally obsolete, lacks the amenities today's people desire. All your stock today is considered affordable. So all of your market rate stock, even though there's no income threshold to it, it all falls below 50% AMI or less income guidelines. So it is considered affordable housing, even though there's no threshold to that building. That doesn't mean that landlord can go in and change rents, but it means that these are older rentals for the most part that lack, amenities like a covered parking stall, in-unit washer, dryer, those amenities that today's renters desire. We're jumping over to senior housing. We're talking about senior housing. We're not talking skilled nursing care. We're not talking single-family homes. We're talking about age-restricted building. It could be 55 plus, 62, that has some restriction on who can live there. All right. So, as we showed earlier, high growth in the senior population, right? So that red, it's harder to see in the screen, but you have some super strong growth rates in the senior population. I mean, it's really, really high. The darker the color, the higher the growth rates. So that means across most of the area, the senior population is growing quite fast, right? And as we break down that senior stock, so the senior housing market, vacancies tend to be a little higher because, you're living at home, you gotta, sell your single family home, you got a right size. So it tends to be a little bit of a higher vacancy rate in senior. But we have a super low vacancy rate across the board. Every product type is at or below what we call market equilibrium. So typically we want to see a 7% vacancy rate for service-based housing, assisted living, memory care, et cetera. And we're sitting there right now, but our active living, i.e. age-restricted, has no services, or few services, is pretty much full, no availability. So again, you want to downsize, you want to right size, sell your single family home, there's nowhere to go, right? You are at capacity right now in that senior housing market. Jump into the for sale market. Again, the COVID boom kind of is shown there, and the mortgage rates, as we see what happened when mortgage rates started to hike up when the Fed started to adjust rates. But continued appreciation despite higher mortgage rates, but this flatlined in 2022 there, that was because of the rates, all the rate hikes, and that slowed sales velocity down, but kept your sales price up because there's nothing to buy. Supply was down, and there's few options to purchase, so it kept the pricing up. Looking at where the supply is today or what's been sold, you know, that the sweet spot tends to be that 125 to 175-ish, you know, price point. And a lot of those sales have occurred in that, sub 200,000 price point, is to see where that majority of the sales velocity falls. We got to talk about the rates, what the Fed has done. They meet again in May, I believe. I think first week of May, we'll see the next Federal Reserve meeting to see what happens. But, we call it the golden handcuffs, right? i.e., people with sub 3% mortgage rates that don't want to sell their homes, and you see, what has happened over the past couple of years. But, almost 3/4 of homeowners today, that's a national trend, almost 3/4 of homeowners in the U.S. today have sub 5. And it's tough to give that up. I always say life is going to happen, right? People are going to have more kids. They're going to, downsize, right size, families change, all those things are going to happen. Eventually, gold handcuffs are going to come off. But it's a short term, it's still a major issue that's impacting the for sale market because people still do not want to give up that sub 3% mortgage rate, which a lot of us still have today. So it's still a major issue impacting the industry. Lots. This is the big one, right? We have a big problem in town here. We have a few vacant lots. I'd say we have 6. I'd say 6 that's in newer subdivisions, not an infill lot, close to downtown, and, probably on the outskirts of town. They've been platted, somewhat recently. But the challenge we have today is pretty much nowhere to build in town for a vacant lot. And that's a problem. We want to see 3 to 5 years of shovel-ready lots ready to go, i.e. infrastructure's in place, curb and gutter, that for sale sign is up, you're marketing those lots. We have 6 lots in town, according to our numbers and what Lee helped us pull together on. So big challenge, right? So we'll talk a little more about that. But that's a high priority to get more, stimulate that market, right? To get more lots in the pipeline. So after we looked at the supply side, demand side, we put together some recommendations and, where is our need based on all these various push and pull factors. So as a market, over the next decade, big number, over 1,400 units, housing units. Big number. And we'll kind of break it down. That's kind of the fancy graphic. But to break it down, when we compared it to the last housing study we did, now it's not quite apples to apples, because the last housing study we did was like an 8-year spread. Now we have a 10-year spread going on. But every category, for the most part, is higher today than it was in 2017. i.e., your growth has exceeded the number of housing units being delivered. So the gap has grown, right? Because we're not delivering enough housing stock to meet the growing demand. So housing demand has gone up over the past 8 years since we did that last work in 2017. All right, to break it down, talk about the for sale market first. Again, like I said earlier, deficiency in lot supply is a huge problem, right? We need lots. The challenging piece is, that last bullet point there, the sweet spot is we need entry-level homes, right? Entry-level for-sale homes, and it's exceptionally challenging today to deliver anything affordable today from a for-sale builder, right? Unless there's some sort of incentive or a carrot to help alleviate some of those construction costs, whether that's offering TIF or some incentive or higher density, strict lot sizes. You really got to pull everything in the kitchen sink to try to make the entry level home price work today, because it's tough, right? It's very challenging. Some cities will become a developer, right? They go buy the land, they put the infrastructure in, they sell the lots at a discount, sell a lot for $25,000 when they had $50,000 into it. So a lot of cities do that today to help stimulate that market. But we have a huge lot shortage, but 300 plus homes, that's the need. And right now, you can't meet any of that need based on the land supply, right? Multifamily, that could fall in a lot of different buckets. I think villas, twin homes, townhomes, row homes. I know we got the condo site yet, the phase 2 over there off the lake. Huge demand yet for the for sale product types, for people who just want to maintenance-free living, right? Just take care of my snow in my yard, right? And lock and leave and go south for the winter. Huge need in the multifamily side as well. Again, rental, you have had some new rental product being delivered, which is fantastic. But I think, the market rate product is really lacking. We need some market rate workforce housing type style to meet the needs. And right now, it's just dire. There's not much for market rate housing out there. It could come a variety of styles. I think townhome rentals are nice. It could be single family rentals for that matter, but the rental side is really lacking. Talking about senior housing, again, your demographics point to everything, right? You need everything. The whole spectrum of housing over the next, decade. And I'd say it's really 2030 and beyond. As we look at where the demographics point, 2030 is a tipping point where people start to need services. Right now, we're not there yet. It's active adult living product types, I call it age targeted. But 2030 is where we're going to start to see this need really pick up. And the demographics show that. So we've got to be planning for that, 5 years down the road now. So to kind of summarize it real quickly, again, we have some positive growth rates. I mean, that's fantastic, right? Because like I said, most communities we work in are the opposite. They're showing negative population growth. So positive growth. A lot of that growth is in the senior population, but again, it's across all demographics, but the senior population is really driving it. We look at, we talk about the market rate, housing, rental housing, sub 2%, huge needs, senior housing. The challenging piece today is those bottom 2 bullet points, right? i.e. inflation, what's going to happen with tariffs, which no one knows yet, and all the challenges ahead of us with, and mortgage rates, for example. I mean, we're back up to 7 again. I mean, just under 7. They've kind of jumping around day to day, week to week. It popped up again, late last week. So affordability has been constrained, big time. And it's, these are our challenges. The interim is, how many developers are sitting on the sidelines right now because, i.e., to make a deal work today, your capital stack has changed. You need substantially more equity. Interest rates have almost doubled, and it's tough to cash flow in today's environment. So that's certainly the brakes have been put on a lot of development of late just because of the uncertainty in the economy right now. Priorities. I think number 1, I think lots and lots. We need to get something done. We need to, find some land, work with a developer, entice a developer, what do you got to do to get some lots platted, because you need some lots. And that could be a variety of lot sizes. It could be, you know, small lots, you know, standard lot size, whatever, huge priority. Type of the rental housing priority, you gotta get that vacancy rate up. You know, people need some options when they move to town. Again, they wanna rent before they buy. They wanna get to know your community, they wanna, you know the lay of the land. It's just not options, right, for your renters. And of course, it impacts your employers, because your employers have jobs, and they have job openings, and you need to put your employees somewhere. So rental housing is a big, you know, a big concern, I'd say. I think, you know, just, we talked about the senior housing, you know, you're updating the housing plan, that's fantastic, but I think, you know, you have a lot to offer, certainly. I mean, housing is still, I'd say, you know, affordable as we compare it to, say, north of here, you know, Okoboji area, Spencer, et cetera. A lot of recreation, open space, a lot of great amenities here in town that you can sell as a, you know, great place to live. So that's the abbreviated 10,000 foot level market overview. So I understand you didn't get a chance to read it last week. It's 143 pages, so not light reading by any means, but you know, happy to take any questions you have and, you know, dissect any thoughts you have and kind of go from there. So I'll pass it back over to the council.
Did this take into account the new cading that's in the process?
Yes, we have cading. Well, depending on what time, so we did our demand methodology. We subtracted out units in the pipeline.
Okay.
So if they were been approved or our construction, we back those out. Yep, good question.
Any other questions for Mr. Mullins? Just seems like we're always trying to chase that. I mean, last time we had the housing, we were trying to chase housing, and then we're still trying to chase housing, which is good. I guess.
You're in a good spot. I mean,
it's better than having a bunch of homes that nobody can, you know,
Right,
that are
well,
that are
and the
vacant.
good news is, I came into town, I didn't see, again, I didn't know what I was gonna see today. I was happy to see I didn't see any major damage to the homes. I was like, that would have been another major issue, right, if we'd had a lot of
Yeah, home
storm
destruction.
damage out. So that, I was happy to see that.
What do you see like in modular housing? I know it's, you know,
Great question. So I think, you know, I can give two sides of it. I feel like modulars, market shares could continue to grow. It's a great concept. End of the day, the cost is the same. So you make it up on time, though. You cut your time in half, but it's the transportation cost that kills you. Where it comes from that plant, they're charging you by the mile. So wherever that plant is, I know, for example, you know, I don't know if Esterville's got something up there. I know there's a lot of modular plants that do a lot of ramblers in South Dakota. Owatonna, Minnesota has a multi-family, you know, they stack on top. But it comes down to transportation costs. I'm all for modular. I love it. Cuts your time in half, but until they can get the cost to come down, it's a tough sell.
Any other questions or comments?
Do we need to be trying to annex more property in so that we can subdivide stuff up? Is that what it's basically coming down to?
I think we need to have conversations with landowners around the outskirts of the community to see if anybody's interested in.
I just wanted to make sure I was getting the right vibe.
Yeah, we've had that discussion for quite a while, trying to figure
Yeah.
out where we can come up with land for homes.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and Council, I know the corridor has been trying to assist that for us, contacting landowners outside of city limits, and it is a challenge.
It's a long process. I mean, that's a lot of homes to build and a lot of lots to try to get going, and it's not like you can slap up 100 homes in a year or two, so. So it's a process. But it needs needs to be a goal, a priority, at least try to look to see where some options might be. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for your time. Good night.
Thank you.
everyone.
Appreciate the presentation and look forward to reading through that. And I was involved in thanking everybody so much back at here, the public, that I forgot to do the consent agenda. So we're gonna back step here. Kinda got so excited that I shot right past the consent agenda. So, do we have any questions or comments on the consent agenda, council? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Rickliff.
Second.
Second by Councilperson Ramos. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That will carry. Now we'll get back on line here. Just wanted to see who was paying attention. Next item is the resolution number 63-R-2024-2025, the termination of 28E agreement for the collection of delinquent court and motion, and also a motion approving the new MOU with BB County. Chief Cole.
Good evening. In front of you, you have is an attachment with a new MOU with the BV County regarding a proposal for considerations of dissolution of an existing 2080 agreement between the city and county related to collection of delinquent court debt due to recent changes in the judicial branch's allocation software. There's no concern about dissolving the 28E that we currently have, and it's recommended entering into a new agreement between the city and the county attorney's office to delegate the duty of collecting unpaid court debt to the county attorney. The proposal is attached to your packets.
Are you aware, has the county approved that? Do you know?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Do we have any questions for Chief Cole? Hearing none, then this is two parts. The first one, we have a resolution to terminate the 28E agreement, and then we'll have a second vote on the motion approving the new MOU with the BB County. So, first up then, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 63-R-2024-2025, the termination of a 28E agreement for the collection of delinquent court and delinquent court.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Rickliff.
Second.
Second by Councilperson Ramos. This is a roll call vote, so Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
Councilperson Rickliff.
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
And Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
That will carry. And then the second item then is a motion, I'd entertain a motion to approve the new MOU with Buena Vista County.
So I have a question here. Does the MOU take the place of the 20, because we had a 28E before. So does the MOU take the place of the 28E?
Yes.
Basically, this operating the same way?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very
I
similar.
just want, thank you.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martinez.
Second.
Second by Councilperson McKinney. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That will carry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is ordinance number 5-0-2024-2025, the text amendment to the post-construction stormwater control ordinance, and this is the third and final reading. Mr. Olson.
Yeah, Mayor Council, again, this is changes that were precipitated by changes made by the state as far as how we set up our post-construction control ordinance. Again, a post-construction control ordinance is how we deal with new construction, new hard surfaces to try and regulate the amount of water that runs off the sites and ultimately lands up in the lake or from creek up to the north of us. So the changes that were made to this are to get us in conformance with what the state changed. in state rules that regulate us. And also, we took the time to go through it and kind of cleaned up some of the language that didn't make a lot of sense, trying to make it more streamlined so it's easier to enforce and easier for our design people to understand.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Olson? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 5-0-2024, 2025, the text amendment to the post-construction stormwater control ordinance, and this is the third and final reading then.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson McKinney,
Second.
second by Councilperson Martinez. This will be a roll call vote, so Councilperson Martinez,
Aye.
Councilperson Rickliffs,
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon,
Aye.
Councilperson McKinney,
Aye.
and Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
That will carry.
Thank you.
Next item is a public hearing on the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. I will open that public hearing. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. This item is to hold the public hearing for the fiscal year 25-26 budget. The budget was published on April 11th with an estimate that summarized revenues, expenses, fund balances, and the levy rate. The budget outlines the funding and operational priorities for the city, as well as council identified visions and goals. Budgeted revenues are just over $55.5 million, and expenses just over $57 million, which is a deficit of $1,371,672 due to carryover projects and increased project costs. This would leave a budget ending balance of just over $14.5 million. As directed by City Council, and that 40% fund balance that's required is for events like we just had to cover the cost of unexplained events and unexplained costs in a given year. So that's why we have that. Our total debt payments will be just over $4.4 million, meaning the debt service only takes up 7.98% of the total projected revenues, and that includes the new fire truck. There is no fiscal impact to hold the public hearing, so the recommendation is to hear any written or oral comments and close the public hearing.
Do we have anyone here who would like to be heard at this public hearing on the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget? Do we have anybody online? It would be *6 to unmute. Have we had anybody contact City Hall?
We have not.
Council, do you have any questions or comments?
I would just like to see more people interested in the budget, because if we don't know how to spend your money, we're gonna spend it the way that we see fit. If you don't tell us, we don't know. So I appreciate you giving us as much information as you did.
And I want to thank everybody that worked so hard on the budget. It was not an easy budget to put together, I'm sure. And all the department heads and stuff worked hard to keep the budgets under control. And appreciate that. And I'm glad you pointed out too that that's why we have fund balances, is for situations like we had this weekend where a lot of overtime and a lot of different things got taken that were expenditures that there is no reimbursement for. So, well, hearing nothing else, I would close the public hearing. Next item then is resolution number 64-R-2024-2025, adopting the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you again, Honorable Mayor and Council. This resolution would adopt the fiscal year 25-26 budget. Everything was outlined in the public hearing. I don't have any other additional comments. Recommendation is to approve the resolution and adopt the fiscal year 25-26 budget so I can submit it to the state.
Soon.
They're waiting, so.
Anybody have any further comment or questions? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution number 64-R-2024-2025, adopting the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson McKeon.
Second.
Second by Councilperson McKinney. This will be a roll call vote, so Councilperson Rickliffs.
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
And Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
That will carry. Next item is a motion to approve a professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink for the Storm Lake Municipal Airport Apron Expansion Project. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you again. This agenda item is a request to approve a professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink for the airport apron expansion project. This project is needed to relieve the traffic on the current apron, which involves extending the hard surface to the south and extending the apron to accommodate more aircraft parking and create a secondary apron route. Bolton and Mink are currently operating under a 5-year professional service agreement for the airport, which includes this project. This work order, as an extension of the 5-year professional service agreement, will include design, bidding, construction for the project in an amount not to exceed $265,000. This project will be funded 95% by FAA entitlement funds and BIL funds, with a local match of 5% from local option sales tax as outlined in the budget. Recommendation is to approve the professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink for the Storm Lake Municipal Airport Apron Expansion Project. And the airport's engineer, Garrett, appears to be online for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Gibbons or for their engineer?
I'd still like to get out there sooner rather than later, because an apron doesn't mean anything to me until I see it, so.
Yep. I did attach a map
Yeah, I
On
saw
there.
them, but, yeah.
to kind of show the increased size of aircraft that are
Right.
coming through Storm Lake, and everything's getting larger, so there's not much room when somebody's fueling at the vestibule to be able to get around it. So this will make an alternative path plus additional parking on the south side of Avery. But I know that's on our list to get you guys out there too.
I think it would be, well, since I've been out actually wandering around the runway and stuff.
Right.
How many
It would-
planes are there at one time parked that it creates this problem? I don't know how much traffic we get.
Right now, if you have one fueling and
Mhm.
one tied down, you can't get through.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve a professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink for the Storm Lake Municipal Airport Apron Expansion Project.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martinez,
Second.
second by Councilperson McKeon. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That will carry. Now we have resolution number 65-R-2024-2025, approving an application for federal aviation funding assistance for the apron expansion project at the Storm Lake Municipal Airport. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you. This item will authorize staff to submit 2 applications to the FAA for federal fundings as the federal funding source on the Storm Lake Apron project. Annually, the FAA allocates entitled funds to general aviation airports. These funds can be banked for up to 4 years and applied by the fiscal sponsor to a funded project as authorized by the FAA through the annual capital improvement submittal process done in each fall. The current project for the apron expansion project, as previously mentioned, will require both sets of funding. In addition to the FAA entitlement funds, the Storm Lake Airport was awarded through the bipartisan infrastructure law for eligible projects. The Storm Lake Airport project's anticipated cost will utilize both of these funding sources. The first application of FAA entitlement funds totals $80,527, while the second BIL funds total $205,373. Both applications are due the FAA by April 28th. Recommendation is to approve and authorize staff to sign necessary documents related to the FAA funding assistance application for the airport expansion project at the Storm Lake Municipal Airport.
Now, just for my own information, have these projects already been approved by the FAA?
Yeah, they're included in the annual
CIP.
ACIP that's done at the end of each year, because their year actually goes October 1st to September 30th. So we submit that after October 1st, and then they get allocated by the federal budget, and then they disperse those funds or bank those funds.
I thought that's the way it was. I thought it was
Glad
always
there's
kind
funds
of.
there to do
Yeah, so
this
that,
work, so.
And the BIL kind of restricted what those funds can be used for.
one thing nice about the aviation is that the FAA covers 95% of it, so, those projects. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution number 65-R-2024, 2025, approving an application for federal aviation funding assistance for the apron expansion project at the Storm Lake Municipal Airport.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Ramos,
Second.
second by Councilperson Rickliff. This will be a roll call vote. So, Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
And Councilperson Rickliff.
Aye.
That will carry. Next item is resolution number 66-R-2024-2025, setting a public hearing on granting utility easement to Tyson Foods, Inc. Mr. Darragon.
Honorable Mayor and Council, Tyler has really exciting items. I'm here to talk about a wastewater easement. Tyson is working on a project in Storm Lake, Iowa, to replace the wastewater treatment influent structure at their plant, which we sold them a couple years ago for the tidy sum of $1. Part of the replacement plan is to install a new valve vault on the City of Storm Lake's wastewater treatment property. A utility easement will be established between Tyson and the City of Storm Lake to provide Tyson the continued use of the 16-inch force main that crosses city property as it enters the Tyson property. The attached exhibit has been approved or been reviewed by ISG as city engineer, Allers and Cooney as our city attorney. This item only sets the public hearing at 5 o'clock on May 5th in our council chambers, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Is this for both Tyson plants or just one or the?
Just one at the moment.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and Council, this is purely for the wastewater treatment plant, right next to our wastewater treatment plant. So it's the Tyson Foods pork side,
Okay.
who wastewater goes to that wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 66-R-2024-2025, setting the public hearing on granting utility easement to Tyson Foods, Inc. And that public hearing will be May 5th of 2025 at 5 p.m. here in the council chambers.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson McKeon and seconded by Councilperson Martinez. This is a roll call vote, so Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
Councilperson Rickliff.
Aye.
And Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
That will carry.
Thank you.
Next item is a motion to approve BB County Memorandum of Understanding for Testing. Ms. Navratil.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. What we're talking about is motorcycle license testing this evening. So I was, what was it? It was probably about a year and a half ago. The county treasurer's office reached out to me. They were looking for locations that could be used for motorcycle testing that's near the courthouse. So they would go to test at the courthouse on the written test, but then they also have to do a hands-on driving test. And where would that go? So when you go to the courthouse, where's the closest location you could go to do your hands-on driving test, I guess. And so we were looking at locations closest to the courthouse. We settled on public parking lot C located at 717 Erie Street. It's in the best condition. We had just recently, it's probably been about 4 or 5, 6, well, it's closer to 7 years now. I don't know where time goes. That we had resurfaced that, and it's closest to the courthouse. So the city of Storm Lake worked with the treasurer's office on basically some parameters. We know that we have the farmer's market that comes in on Thursdays and Saturdays, so those times were off limits. They would give us 48-hour notice of any testing so that we could let the public know that that location was going to be closed, and then also we would be able to locate any vehicle owners to have them removed from the parking lot. The county would ensure that any person completing motorcycle testing has presented proof of liability insurance required by Iowa law. And then in addition to all of this, the Iowa Department of Transportation actually had to approve the location as well because they needed to set the site up, I guess. So a memorandum of understanding is between the city and the county. Any questions I can answer?
So nobody's gonna get towed if their car is still there when it's.
We'll try to, if it's, as long as it's not, more than likely they might have to get towed if it's in a location where the testing is gonna occur, because the DOT sets out your course. And so they'll have to go out and put that course markings out there. But that's why we were having a 48-hour notice.
So if somebody's out of town, something like that,
Mhm.
who's gonna pay for that? I mean, if I were to park there for 5 days, that's legal, correct?
It is not legal, no.
It's not
It's
legal?
24 hours, so we would work with, obviously, our law enforcement, but no, you can't keep a car there more than 24 hours. You do have to move it. There might be instances, in this particular lot, it's mostly city vehicles that park there.
So that's not legal.
So we will make sure, I do have to say, sometimes we do forget to move them out of the way. But traditionally, it's been just city vehicles that have been there overnight. There's a couple property owners that have,
So that's not one of our emergency spots for people to park
it is, but this is only for, I mean, they're not gonna do motorcycle
in the winter.
testing in the winter. I would not recommend it. And I don't think the county or DOT would
Even allow it.
even allow it. We're talking really spring, summertime.
So just out of curiosity, where do they do the driver's test for other vehicles?
This would just be the other vehicles. I'm not certain about the,
I'm just
They
kind
just-
of wondering
they just-
why this
Sure.
one has to
They
be
just
by
go
the
around,
They
yeah.
just drive around.
They
Okay.
drive around through town.
Okay.
And right now, there's no motorcycle testing here in town?
I think they were looking for a location for motorcycle testing. I believe they've had it. I'm not certain where they went previously, but it was pretty complicated. And so when you had to drive to a location, it wasn't convenient. It's really not convenient to the customer. And that's what they were looking
Neither is
at.
being towed.
No,
So I
it's not.
just-
Mm-mm.
I think if that becomes an issue, I think this should be brought back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Maybe it's such a thing that we try and get everybody to park on one section that's not gonna be used for the testing and, you know.
That's what I was gonna say, is that painting, is that permanent on there, or they like put cones, or what do they do to mark out the course?
It's cones. It's
Cones.
temporary. It's no painting. Yes, it's no permanent marking. I asked that.
But I think you'd want to get the cars out of there if you could, just so nobody crashed.
I wouldn't want mine in there.
No, I wouldn't want it either while somebody's training on the motorcycle. Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't foresee there'd be much problem in that particular parking lot, but.
And I don't think it's that big of an area that it's not like they take up the whole parking lot or anything. But it's been a couple of years since I've taken my test. More than 2.
Maybe we'll see you out.
Should take it again.
No.
Any other questions?
I have a hard enough time walking, let alone.
Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the BB County Memorandum of Understanding for Testing.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Rickliff and seconded by Councilperson Ramos. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That will carry. Next item is a work session regarding Storm Lake Proud Week. Ms. Waldman, probably don't have any tasks to do now during Storm Lake Proud Week, do we?
Just a few. Good evening. We've had several citizens and several community organizations step up and volunteer. We're at approximately 11 groups, different groups of people. We have sold through the week so far, about 29 tickets. 4 people, so that's been doing really well. We do have a lot of things left. I think I finally filled the spot for the trail lights, painting the bases of the trail lights. I think I have a group for that. We do need some help with rake and level the mulch at the playgrounds, rake and level the mulch around the trees at the golf course, and paint the basketball hoops and the poles at Emerald Park. But we've had several groups. We have Storm Lake Public Schools is sending 8th graders to Frank Starr Park. There'll be about 214. And we have a 1st grade class that's gonna hook up with the IJ class to paint some flowers. They also will hook up with Hometown Pride Group to have an adult supervise. There's like 200 of those kids too. So they're working on a plant unit this time of year, so they want to plant some flowers. So they'll be planting the tall planters downtown and some stuff in the parks.
Can you email me a list of who we have?
Yes, I can.
Because I've visited a lot of different groups, and I
Yep.
just want to see if they've contacted you or not.
Yep. So they're coming in, which is great. After the storm, we'll need lots of helping hands.
So that's a question, because when we were working on Saturday, we wondered if you would have to change some of the projects as a result of the storm.
Possibly, but with as many, like cleaning in the parks, we have a group that's gonna be doing a lot of shoreline stuff and in the parks, and there's many, many, many sticks yet to be picked up, so. I'm sure between now and then, we have such a good parks crew that I wouldn't be surprised if they were picked up, but.
But I think part of the advertising for that week, I think could go to marketing for that week would be that, we could end that week and have the community back to where it was starting last Thursday or something like that, that might be a good way to get people involved possibly.
Yeah.
Too. And we're also looking at doing, I think we're starting that soon, the neighborhood,
Challenge?
contest or whatever you wanna call it. We've gonna send that out here soon, because we might just will start it now where people can, in their neighborhoods, if one of your neighbors has a big tree down in the front yard, that maybe a neighborhood would get together to help them take care of that. So we're gonna try to kick that off now, or very soon, to get people involved, so. And then we have the drawing at the end then for pizza and beverages, so.
That's through the Hometown Pride Committee.
That's through the Hometown Pride,
And you have 50 tickets total to sell, right, for the?
A day.
each day.
Oh,
Each
each
day.
day, so you still have plenty.
Yeah, we sell plenty. So, yeah.
That's a
What
good
did
deal.
we find out for that weekend? I know we had the discussion
Oh, for
about-
Saturday?
Yes.
They have a staffing problem that weekend, and because of insurance and liability, we cannot staff it without one of their staff members there.
Okay.
So
I
we'll
thought-
see how the
I
ticket
just thought it was
sales go.
important. I know we had questions on council, and I thought it was important to know what the
And they have
reason was.
extended their hours through this disaster that we had this past weekend, so people can take their brush out there. I had a thought, I'm not sure, possibly with all the trees that were taken down, there could be the possibility that we'll have to fill in some dirt and probably seed some stuff down, so that's something a group could do. I would encourage citizens to call and say if they need that kind of help. That way we can get some groups out there. There's a couple groups I've reached out to on other things, and they're more than willing to help. But a lot of them are having time constraints during the week, and I said, well, you don't have to do it during the week.
Right.
You can pick a weekend to do it. You don't have to do it that weekend. You can pick a weekend and another weekend, so.
And I think even evenings, I mean, I don't know.
Oh,
who
yeah,
else. I would be-
evenings are fun, too.
I'd be willing to volunteer to supervise somebody if they want to do a project one of the evenings that
Yep.
week.
So it's going really well so
Also,
far.
so. But I've contacted several groups, and I didn't know who all
Yeah,
has
I'll,
contacted you,
I'll email
so.
that to you.
And just people out in the community, they can just, both with, if you want to volunteer, or your neighborhood wants to volunteer, contact Kim.
Yep.
So the groups who have volunteered and have picked a particular project, have they received any information about instructions or what they need?
Not yet.
Oh, but it's
They'll
coming.
be receiving that information hopefully this week, if, depends on how the cleanup goes.
Don't have anything else to do this weekend, or this week.
And we just opened up the campground, so yeah, it's
Yeah,
been busy,
okay.
but that's all right.
And also, how about the money? I don't think we had decided on what the money, and I have read that we are giving it to Des Moines, so I don't know how that was.
How was
Was
that
that decided when we hadn't really decided?
No, Honorable Mayor and Council, what happened, I think we started that discussion and then veered off in a different direction, and it just was printed. So City Council, after community cleanup, we can see what has been, gathered, I guess, the money that we've been gathered, and it will come forward to council to determine where it should go.
'Cause
It
we
was-
have a couple of trees to buy.
Well, yes, yeah, I think it was just a printing from the previous year. It just changed dates on it, and unfortunately, the donation was not deleted, so.
But I would say we can at least make the statement that it will not go into the general fund of the,
Right, no, yeah.
of the city, so it will be used for something.
And our funding granted to outside agencies this year was very, very small.
Mhm.
And so I think we need to look at another organization if possible.
Any other questions for? Kim?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just keep pushing as council, just keep trying to get organizations. It doesn't have to be many. I mean, if we can get people of 5 people and they get 5 friends or whatever, you can get a lot. We accomplished a lot in Chautauqua Park Saturday with probably, 30 people maybe?
And a chainsaw.
And a chainsaw or 2, that helped. And some people that were willing to have trailers to haul that stuff out. Okay. Gotta figure out which one I'm out here now.
Number
I'm
11.
having trouble here. with my- Yeah, there we are. Okay, work session on the ordinance amending city code, chapter 34, waterworks maintenance. Ms. Navratil.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. We're talking this evening about service lines, curb stops, water meters, and fixtures to be repaired in a timely manner. Right now, we have at minimum 5 water leaks that we are aware of, 151 curb stops that need to be addressed, fixed, repaired, and 73 meters that need to be replaced in properties. And that number does not include the number of meters that we're estimating of water utility bills, just because they're running slower, older, and need to be replaced. So at minimum, these are the numbers that we're dealing with. I know that our utility billing crew is constantly updating all of that information, but as of Wednesday when I left, that is what we had. So the ordinance that you have before you we did change one item in there, and that was to state that water service line leaks would be considered emergency maintenance. And so it needed to be repaired immediately. For a couple of reasons. Number one, I know that we're going into our summer season watering, and that we're gonna end up in water conservation at some point in the next 4 or 6 weeks, whenever that will occur. So we want to make sure that those water leaks are addressed immediately. In addition, the water that is leaking has been treated, and it would go into our storm sewer, which goes into the lake, and ultimately it could violate our MS4 permit. So we want to make sure that we don't do that either. And so we did change that, as any water leaks have to be repaired basically immediately. The other pieces of the ordinance, the curb stops, water meters, fixtures, we kept in there, we didn't put an exact number date, like 30 days, 15 days, whatever. As recommended by our attorney, when you do an ordinance, you're pretty much set if you need to change it. We're gonna be back here, and it's gonna be many meetings in 6 weeks, if not longer, to change something in the ordinance. The recommendation is to come back and have an administrative policy that council approves, which would be easier to change. So if we find out that, a curb stop, 30 days or 45 days is too long to get a curb stop fixed, then we can come back with an administrative change to a policy that council can address at that time. So right now, what we're trying to do in this ordinance is get a little bit more teeth to what we've had in the past. Have the water leaks addressed immediately, and then the ability to also assess property taxes if the property owner would like to do that, or they can pay directly to the city if it's something that one of our contractors has to fix. Previously, we did not have those options, and then we'll come back early part of May with administrative policies that we can work through.
How do we know when a water meter is not working?
We can, our utility billing runs reports, and we can tell how, with the final, with our reading, with the reads, if it's running slow.
Those are spendy.
Yes, right now, a water meter is about $900. And again, if it's something that needs to get repaired, replaced, it can be assessed to the taxes. Yeah, as long as it's over $500, it can be reassessed to a property owner's taxes. And the ones that we are replacing, it's, we're trying to reduce, we don't want to have any more, we want to make sure that the remote reads, so that you don't have anybody driving around actually reading meters anymore. It comes directly to City Hall, and our utility billing staff can get that read immediately.
Do you have any questions or anything they'd like to see different in the ordinance?
So I'm just curious sometimes about language, and I know we'll get this from lawyers, but I'm looking at 3(4)19 owners to protect meters. And it talks about every hot water heater and hot water storage tank must have a check valve on the supply pipeline and suitable relief valve. How do we know whether they have those installed and whether they're functioning?
Well, we don't, but
Well, I think probably.
You have
I
to
mean,
go
when
in the
they're
house to
installed.
find
when they're installed, yeah, your
Installed,
plumber,
you probably know, because I
Yeah.
would guess that that's
yeah, and,
something the plumber has to,
right, yeah, so,
regulation they need to follow.
right, it would be, yeah, exactly, it would be your plumber. Whoever you hire would come in and make sure that occurs. It's, when you do hire somebody, you're making sure that they're following through on the code compliant piece. We do like inspections when I go through and do new housing inspections is one that our staff looks at. Rental inspections are able to look at that.
Anything else? You okay with the way it is? Move forward with that? With the next item?
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, if you're okay with the language that we have in our ordinance, the next item would be to set the public hearing for first, to have the public hearing on May 5th.
This ordinance.
On this ordinance that you have before you, and then first reading would be after the public hearing on May 5th. And then the May 19th, we will start discussing the administrative policy.
Everybody okay with that
Yes.
timeline?
Mhm.
Okay. Got everything you need from the work session?
I do, thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item then. And that then is a motion setting a public hearing to amend City Code 3-4. Anything to add?
Honorable Mayor and Council, I do not.
Council have anything that they want to add? If not, I would entertain a motion to set the public hearing to amend City Code 3-4, and that would be May 5th, 5 PM here in the council chambers.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson McKeon, second by Councilperson McKinney. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That will carry.
Didn't mean to cut Fran.
Speed up.
Right.
Do you have any city council requested items to look at coming up?
Just with the events happening, I think it would be good to have a discussion on the outdoor warning system. There seem to be a lot of comments and things in the city from citizens. Just kind of an understanding, you know, what the city is, you know, part of that is, the county, you know, and then the National Weather Service, I think would be important. So if we could just bring that.
Just have that discussion?
Mhm. Honorable Mayor and Council, would it be of interest to have Amy Barrett come and discuss on that too?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
she would
that'd be
have,
great.
yeah, that'd be a good idea,
Yeah.
because she would actually have
Mhm.
the.
Yeah. We actually don't control the outdoor warning
we don't
signal.
have any
We don't have a button here that we get to push.
And it depends on the type of storm.
Correct, yeah. This did not call for one.
Exactly.
But it's still a good conversation to have at a
Conversation,
public hearing,
education,
at a
yep.
public forum, so people can
Correct.
understand why there wasn't one this last. Anything else? Hearing none, then you have anything?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. I was just, for the airport meeting, the next airport commission meeting is May 12th, so it's the second Monday of the month.
So we're asking if we want to go out to the
Yeah, we can,
airport
if,
some point
if,
during that meeting.
during that
Probably not
meeting,
to be for the
mhm.
whole meeting, but
right, Honorable Mayor and Council, they do start at 4.
Do we have to be there for a meeting?
No,
No.
we don't have to be there
I
for a
mean,
meeting,
just
but,
part of the agenda someplace
sure.
along the line.
Mhm, yep, just to,
Oh,
You could sit through the meeting if you'd like.
Contain your excitement just a little bit.
Does that date, does that
The
date
date would be fine.
Okay.
acceptable for everybody?
Yes,
Okay, let's see if we can
Okay.
have that on, put that on the agenda maybe for that day.
What
Okay.
time would we?
Yeah, what time would we want to be at the beginning or
We
towards the,
wanna do,
you want, is 4
5
okay
o'clock?
for,
5 o'clock.
how long
5
does the
o'clock.
meetings usually take, Tyler?
5.
Would be better.
Yeah.
Half
About
hour.
half hour?
Oh, 4:30.
Oh, 4:30 then.
4:30?
North side.
Okay, does that work?
Perfect.
All right, Honorable Mayor, we will have an agenda set for 4:30 on May 12th. For your city council attending the airport.
Perfect.
and I'm sure we'll have reminders reminding us.
Yes, you will.
Appreciate that.
Okay, anything else? Now I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Moved by Councilperson Ramos.
Second.
Second by Councilperson McKinney. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. You know how hard it is to get adjourned when neither one of you can